Why are there so many Bible translations? As a Christian, you must have heard this question from people of all walks of life, including Christians. Some are genuinely curious as to know, and others use it as a weapon to raise against the authenticity of Scripture, with the argument of so many versions equal corruption. Stick around as we unpack the truth. The Bible we have today was written over a span of about 1,500 years in three languages: Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, by an estimated 40 authors. These scriptures were passed down over generations, both orally and textually. Today, we unfortunately do not have the originals of these books, but we have copies of both the Old and New Testament that go way back. For example, the Ketephinum scrolls, which were written 700 years before Christ, are the oldest manuscripts we have today of the Old Testament, and P52, which dates to around 100 to 174 AD of the New Testament. It is important to note that there are over 24,000 of both complete and incomplete ancient manuscripts in our possession today, from which we get our modern translations. These manuscripts have been scrutinized in a process of textual criticism in order to find the most accurate or reliable reading of particular texts to which they may pertain to, and just 1% of these manuscripts are found to differ, and about 70 to 90% of this 1% difference are simply spelling errors. We do not boast of a word-for-word preservation as some other religions do, but there are clearly the preservation of the message and the truth. It is thanks to manuscripts like these that we have the Bible as you know it today. The first ever known Bible translation is the Septuagint, which is the first Greek translation of the Hebrew scriptures. The first unified collection of the New Testament books came about in the late 4th century, the Codex Sinaiticus, which was also written in Greek. The Latin Vulgate was translated by Saint Jerome in 382 CE. This was the first complete Latin version of the entire Old and New Testament. This made the scriptures very accessible and the spreading of the gospel even easier, as very few people spoke Aramaic, Hebrew, or Greek. Portions of scripture in English began to emerge in the early 7th century, but the first complete English translation was not produced until 1382 by the influence of John Wycliffe. Later in the 16th century, 7 more popular English versions were produced, beginning with William Tyndale's work in 1525. This English version of the New Testament was the first to be translated directly from Greek instead of Latin texts. After Tyndale, several other famous Bibles were produced in the 16th century. The Cloverdale Bible in 1535, Matthew's Bible in 1537, the Great Bible in 1539, the Geneva Bible in 1560, which was the first to use chapters, verses, and the italicization of added words, the Bishop's Bible in 1568. Finally, in 1604, in an effort to resolve several factions between Englishmen over Bible versions, King James authorized the translation of another version that came to bear his name. The King James New Testament was compiled primarily from the Byzantine family of manuscripts, but many of the newer translations were produced using a composite of later discoveries of other manuscripts and fragments dating from an earlier period. Among such are the Alexandrian family manuscripts, which include the Codex Alexandrinus, the Codex Vaticanus, the Codex Sinaiticus, all which were major contributors to most Bible versions after the King James versions. With the limited nature of the English language and the fast pace of its evolution, some Bible translators would choose to prioritize either a word-for-word translation like the NIV. Others would choose to focus on the meaning while translating, and some will prioritize vocabulary in order to make Bible more understandable like the CSV. Despite all these translations, the message of the Bible remained the same. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever will believe in him will be saved. Like and subscribe for more content like this.